Hey there, Skeleton Key here, and tonight we're gonna chat about readathons because I love me a good readathon, and I'm still doing some from the summer and fall, and then there were 3 for November that I've been participating in. So I just thought I would go over everything, and I have a big stack of books. Yay, hi. Um, and it's too heavy for me to lift to show you, so sorry. Um, of books that I have either read or am hoping to read in the next week or so. I will probably extend this into December because I will need to. So I'm going to talk about three readathons that I am continuing from the summer and fall, and then the 3 for this month. And I've put all the information about the various readathons in the description box below, and also I've tagged the people in charge of those, so you can check out their channels and also get in on the November ones if you want. You may have already read books for them this month. But yeah, I promise you I'm not going to be able to remember everybody's name or channel name when it comes time to say who all we're hosting. So yeah, that information is all down in the description box below. And so let's get to it. First up is Spookopolython. And that is Becca's spooky version of the Bookopalathon that she runs every year. And so there's a board, and I'll throw that up here in a minute. And then I have my it's like Monopoly, but with different things for the squares. And of course this was in October instead of September when she usually runs it. And so she made it spooky. So it's Spookopolython. And so I had my owl familiar, Atenea. I don't know if she'll probably get fuzzy. But in September, in this case October, I have Atenea go around the board on my behalf. And I made 5 rolls. And here, let me just throw the board up for you. I have too many tabs. Okay, there it is. So there, so here's where you start. And so Ateneo is here. I had 5 rolls in October, no doubles, so just the 5. And I did read 3 of the books in October. So the squares that I didn't finish were Feed Scroll and Community Shelf. So I'll show you what is left on those. So for Feed Scroll, you basically go to a website that has bookish content like Goodreads or Facebook for some people, or Mastodon, whatever. And anyway, you just scroll down, and the first book you come to that you have reasonably good access to and have not read already, unless you want to reread it, but I'm not much of a rereader. But the first book you come to that you can reasonably read is the book that you pick for your feed scroll. And so for mine, it was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And this is a signed edition. And yeah, I started it for a book club, and I kept getting interrupted, so I finally just set it down. It's like, "I'll get back to it later," and later never happened, so now's later. So that's on my list now for November. And then the other one was Community Shelf, and that's you draw the Community Shelf cards. Um, and that one that I drew was to read a collection of short stories. So for that, I did start on Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, and this was a pick for Temporal Textual Talks, which is a virtual steampunk book club. And I read several of the short stories in here, and I really enjoyed them. So I am looking forward to reading more. Okay. And then let's see. Back to the board. Okay. So now I decided, well, let's do 5 rolls, roll those over into November from October, and then do another 5 rolls, which turned into 7 rolls because I had 2 doubles. So let's see, what all did I get? Let's see. I hit the chance, let's see, because I was over here on Jigsaw, and then I hit the chance, which is draw a card, and you get a title. And then I hit TBR Vet over here. And then I landed on Stabby, or Atenea landed on Stabby. And then she landed on Dice Roll Roulette, which is a fun little game that involved rolling of more dice. And let's see, Candy Corn over here. And then highest rated, so yeah, there. And then purple. So what all do we have for those? Okay, so for the chance card, and that's you pull it instead of how Community Shelf has a prompt. This just has a title, and so I had gone through earlier and added a bunch of titles to them. Some that I was really eager to read, and some that I anticipated being a little bit of a chore. But this is one that I started for High Tea Book Club. It's A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. And this is a grumpy old man story. I did not get very far into it, but this is one that I want to decide for myself because I know so many people who absolutely love this book, and I know people who thought it was really kind of cheesy, and yeah, so I want to decide for myself, and it's translated from Swedish, I believe. Well, I don't see a translator listed. There's probably somewhere a translator listed, but or maybe he wrote it in English. I don't know. Let's see. So there's that for the chance card. Then for TBR Vet, yeah, I have a lot of TBR Vets, but this one, and I'll come back to this one later. But this is Douglas Adams's Starship Titanic by Terry Jones. And I have had this. Okay, so what is the copyright? 1997 copyright. And this is first edition. So I probably got this sometime in 1997 or shortly thereafter. And I'm sure it appealed to me because I have actually played the video game. but I've never read it. So yeah, I've had this probably for about 25 years, and I have never actually read it. Um, yeah, I played the video game, did not get very far in the video game because it was hard. Um, Curious to know if anyone else out there has played um, Starship Titanic or Zork Zero, or any of those. And I guess Infocom was kind of getting into the adding graphics, or was it Infocom still or EA? I don't remember the timeline of who did what when, but yeah, it was kind of a strange time, the 90s. But I will be coming back to this one. And there, so I won't forget it. And let's see. So that was TBR Vet, and then Stabby is to read something really violent. There's a later book in here that I was first thinking of, but then it occurred to me and it's a reread, but I don't remember it. It was long enough ago that I read it that I don't remember if it is particularly violent. It's an Agatha Christie, and she tended to use poison a lot, so I don't really consider that stabby. So I decided this is one that I am reading for a readathon I will talk about later. This is The Killing Code, and this is by Ellie Marney, an Australian author. And yeah, it's an Australian author, but it is set in the US. It revolves around, oh, is this historical fiction? Huh, is this historical fiction? Or maybe a dual timeline? Virginia, 1943. World War II is raging in Europe. But yeah, so it takes place. It's a spy novel, I guess, or has to do with coding and encryption and all sorts of fun stuff. But I gather that this one is pretty. I mean, there's like bloodstains and stuff on the cover, so surely it's stabby. If not, I will figure out something else because I'm sure I have plenty of stabby books. But that's another one I'll be coming back to. All right. So next was Dice Roll Roulette. And that okay, so that was a game, and there's a little chart if you when you go to download the game board and all the little cards, the PDFs. There she also it's Becca and the books, or Becca with the books, Becca and the books. But she has a file that is just a guide to what the different squares mean. And so for that one, there's a little chart, and you roll two dice, two d6s, and then that you look on the chart to see how many pages of a book you have to read. So I rolled a 4, which means I had to read a book that was 175 to 224 pages long. So yay, not a really long book. And so for that, so how long was this? This was 185 pages long. This is a Richard Peck novel. It's YA. It's kind of short. Yeah, well, no, I don't know. Probably middle of YA. And this is, you can't really read it, Blossom Culp and the Sleep of Death. And this is the fourth and final book in the Blossom Culp series, which I absolutely adored when I was a child. This came out in 1986 when I was just a little bit too old for it. And so I didn't even know until pretty recently that there was another Blossom Culp book. I had read the first 3 when I was younger. Absolutely loved them. Richard Peck is one of my favorite authors. He's written a lot of YA books. Some of them I think would probably be considered middle grade now. But this was a lot of fun. Yeah, there's so Blossom Culp is psychic. and she has second sight, and it is historical fiction. It's set in 1914. Does this say? Somewhere it says. But yeah, the early 20th century, and she's 14 or 15 years old. I read it pretty recently, but it was about her basically being haunted by the ka of um uh, a uh, a mummy that was really upset because someone had stolen her earthly self and a bunch of her fine fine things that had been buried with her. And she basically commanded Blossom and Blossom's friend Alexander, who also in the first 3 books, when he has some abilities as well, some supernatural abilities as well, and he's not real happy about that. But anyway, uh, commands them to go retrieve her things and return them to their rightful place, and also to prevent the later grave robbers from taking more stuff. And so it's really cute. It's really fun. Um, I love Blossom. It's Yeah. So if you're looking for fun YA historical fiction, you can't beat Blossom. So I would recommend starting at the beginning. The first book is The Ghost Belonged to Me. Yeah. And I will be coming back to this because this one does all sorts of, it's good for all sorts of readathons. All right. So then Candy Corn is to read something sweet, something all vibes, no stakes, is I think how she put it in the guide. So I'm thinking, well, I was originally thinking, well, Bookshops and Bone Dust, because I had it on pre-order and I have it now on audio, and I am really looking forward to reading that, but I also have to read this, which is Your Guide to Not Getting Murdered in a Quaint English Village. It's not exactly sweet, but it is, and we didn't. This is for High Tea Book Club. We try to pick something kind of short, because we're also doing like a gift exchange and all that fun stuff. But we didn't really realize at the time that it's sort of a humor book. It's mostly illustrations. It's not big on the text, and I don't know if it counts as sweet, but it is humorous, and it's things like identifying the private doctor and the naturalist, and staying away from anywhere with a vat. Uh, so I have not actually started, as I was just flipping through it for the first time right now. But yeah, I think this should count. It looks kind of Christmassy, but it's not really a Christmas book exactly. And I mean, okay, it's not low stakes because it's a how to not get murdered, which is pretty high stakes, but it's a humor book, so I think it should count. But if I finish it and decide, all right, that really didn't count as Candy Corn, then I will go and listen to Bookshops and Bone Dust. But this is by Maureen Johnson and Jay Cooper. I have read something by Maureen Johnson before. Not Truly Devious. She wrote Truly Devious. I have not read that yet. I have it, but she wrote The Name of the Star. Is that right? I have a feeling it was something to do with London and Jack the Ripper and time travel or something. It was kind of supernatural in some way. But anyway, I'm not familiar with Jay Cooper, so it will be interesting. Or maybe the illustrations. Maybe he did the illustrations. I don't know. But this looks really cute and fun. and I'm looking forward to it. And then, okay, so now we got to go back and share my screen because the next one was highest rated. So it's basically go on your Goodreads or whatever. And I think I am on Storygraph, but I just have not gotten into it. It's like Goodreads is the devil I know. And I figured out ways to work around its quirks. And so that's what I do. So let's see. I'm going to look at I'll look at my books I'm currently reading first. I think I've got that up. Yeah. So, and yeah, I went ahead and sorted them by average rating. So highest rated is Poetry Society of Colorado Centennial Anthology. So, I mean, it's got a 5. I don't know how many ratings that is. Usually when it's a 5, there's only 1 rating. And this is fairly recent. I would rather not do an anthology because this one I have kind of specific plans for, because I'm in the Poetry Society of Colorado, and we're going through it month by month, reading, and somebody recites one of the poems out of the anthology. So I don't really want to skip ahead too much. So let's just keep that in mind and then see if there's anything in the obtained shelf that would. Okay, I've got several. How many do I have? Okay, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 5 here. Let's see. Okay, so that's a bind up or a box set. So that's 3 books. I have them on Kindle. My friend Shirley McCann wrote them, and sorry, I haven't read them yet, Shirley. I will probably read the first book pretty soon, but I don't feel up to reading 3 books from the same series at once. So let's not do that one. And this is 2 novels in the same volume. So, or let's see. No. Oh, no, it's 3. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, A Tramp Abroad, and Personal Recollections of Joan of Arc. So yeah, that's a collection. Not going to do that. Okay, this is possibility. I probably got this as a free download on Kindle. So 21. Yeah, I should. Yeah, I like using Instant Pot. I haven't used my Instant Pot in a while, so that might be good. Seaway Trail Guidebook to the War of 1812. I have that here somewhere. I think it's up here, but anyway, it's pretty short, but that's pretty niche. And then Galaxies is a textbook. It's a reading textbook from, I think, like 6th grade. But it had a story in it that I was looking for because I couldn't remember who wrote it. And so I tracked down a copy of the textbook and bought it, and found the author, and I bought, and it turns out it was an excerpt. It wasn't a short story. It was an excerpt from a longer book. So then I tracked down that book, and I said, yeah, but this is, excerpts and essays and poems and short stories and all sorts of stuff. So it's a collection. So I think Instant Pot starter recipes, 21 low budget, delicious and easy Instant Pot recipes for beginners. I'm not exactly a beginner, but hey, I'll take it. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I have that on Kindle. Let's click through. 45 pages. Ooh, that's nice. All right. All right, and then next is purple. And I was really surprised to see how few purple books I have, even ones that had like purple in the title, like the Purple Line or something like that. the cover's not purple. But and I have a lot that are a really nice dark indigo, and this is the most purplish of them that I have. It's The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco, and, so I'm gonna read this. I've been meaning to read this for a very long time, um, and it's a really pretty cover, and I think I did actually did I started it, but I got interrupted, and it's not any fault of the book that I put it down. So, so those are my 7 books that, and I've already read the Blossom Cult book. So that's 6 more books plus the 2. Yeah, and so I'm thinking, yeah, I'll just anything I don't finish this month, I'll roll over to December, and I'll decide then if I do another 5 rolls or if I just call those 7 good or eh. All right. Now, what are we looking at? Space Opera September. And so this was a fun one. I barely squeaked through succeeding at my mission. Um, so it's and I've got a link to one of the announcement videos below. If this interests you, I recommend just watching that video because it explains far better than I can right now how the mechanics of the game worked. And it was very gamified. And I like that. Uh, so, stage 1 was you pick whether you're going to read 2 big books or 4 shorter books, novellas or novels. And so I went with the 4 short books, or if you're going to do it as a team. And at the last minute, I was trying to get a team together and nobody would join my team. So nobody joined my crew. So I had to find a bunch of really short books to read really quick. And I did succeed. And so I knocked off a bunch of the prompts. So stage 2 is your mission. And so there were these various prompts for different missions you could choose. Stage 3 is an unplanned event, and you could choose your unplanned event. And we'll get into that a little bit here. And then stage 4 is your epilogue. And I did read an epilogue book. So I managed to succeed, but I still had a bunch of prompts that I didn't use. And I thought, well, let's try another mission and use up all the rest of them. So I was going to start this in October. Didn't happen. So I started it in November. And so I didn't go in order. So stage 3 for my unplanned event, I did Stuck in Dark Matter, and that was to read hard SF. And okay, I'm not a physics nerd. I don't know a whole lot about techie stuff. So I'm assuming this is hard SF, but it's Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. And I don't have I have a physical copy somewhere. It got packed for move, and I was about 75% through it, got packed for move, and it has not resurfaced. It's probably out in the garage. So I decided, okay, let's just borrow the audiobook from the library. Got that on Libby, and I listened to it. It's long. It is a long book, and I just started at the beginning. It's like, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I don't remember. So I listened to that. I did really enjoy it. There's some pacing stuff that I'm like, does this really need to be this long? I don't think it needs to be this long. And it's The Expanse TV series, which I have not watched. So now I feel like I can watch that. Because I was waiting until I read the book and I kept thinking, oh, it'll turn up, and obviously it hasn't. So, so that was my unplanned event. So going back to stage 2, mission. The only prompt I have left is colonize, which is to read a book published by a small press. And this is another book that I've had on my TBR for a very long time. And this is Space Opera Insertion, book 1 of Rift Worlds Online. So this is a lit RPG book. So it actually, it's like, oh, quest completed, level 2. I don't know if you can see that, probably not. But it's, quest intro to tactics, pistol skill, +1, plus 100 XP. So it reads like an RPG. And I met this author at Mile High Con, and I think, yes, he even signed it for me. So yeah, I've been wanting to get to this for a while, and the whole idea, I have not read any lit RPG, and that whole idea just intrigues me. So I'm looking forward to finally getting to that. So I have other unplanned events. Let's see. Engine failure, space horror / survival. And just judging by the video game, I'm going to say Starship Titanic works for that, because you're on a spaceship the ship that cannot possibly go wrong. And of course, things go very horribly wrong. And so I'm guessing that the idea is to figure out how to survive. And this is a novel. As far as I can tell, it is not lit RPG. But yeah, so back to Douglas Adams and Terry Jones. And then Intergalactic Incident. And that is to read a romance space opera. Oh, and by the way, for space opera, they're just a very simple definition of takes place mostly in space, like on a space station or an asteroid or a spaceship, or I don't know, there are probably other things. So a romance. I don't mind at all romance, and actually Leviathan Wakes can work for this because there is a romantic subplot. But I could also, if I have lots of extra time, I could also read Shards of Honor. I believe that is the first Miles Vorkosigan. Is that how it's pronounced? I don't know. I have not read any of them. But that series, and I'm assured that they are space opera. So, and I'm assured that that one has romance in it. So I could also read that if I don't want to double up Leviathan Wakes. Okay, stage 4. I do have 2 left for that. Celebrated Hero, Epilogue, Celebrated Hero, and that is to reread a fave. I have not read a whole lot of space opera, and I'm not much of a rereader, so I don't have, even books that I've enjoyed a lot, I don't have copies to reread, except Martha Wells. Murderbot. Love me some Murderbot. So I went to a signing event. Yeah. Just take my word for it. Martha made a little squiggle in my book, to Stina. And this is All Systems Red. This is the first book in the Murderbot Diaries series. I love Murderbot. Murderbot is amazing. Also I have the entire series in hardcover. They are not all first editions because I came kind of late to Murderbot. But a lot of them are first editions. This is not a first edition, but I do have this. It is a fave. Murderbot is definitely a fave. So I expect I will be rereading All Systems Red, probably before I get to System Collapse. All right. And then the last one is Epilogue Retire, and that is to read a series sequel or finale. And I could have counted at least one of the books I read in September for this. If I go by other people's definitions of sequel, I don't really feel comfortable with. I'm being a little pickier on that. To me, a sequel is the second book of a duology. And it says series sequel or finale. So I'm thinking, the very last book of a series or the second book of a duology. So I read Network Effect, and a lot of people would count that because it's not the first book. And so they would consider it a sequel. And I don't know. I could consider that, but I don't know. But anyway, that is Space Opera September. And November. And probably December. Space Opera December. So now we go on to the 52 Book Club's road trips, summer and beyond. This was supposed to be a summer road trip, and they don't have it up on their website anymore, but let's see. I think I've got a blog post that kind of goes into it. Maybe? Well, I linked to it. Let's see if this is it. I think this is it. Yeah. So it's an annual challenge of 52 prompts. And this, so here in message 4 is where I start talking about, you basically had the months of June, July, and August to complete a road trip. And a road trip consisted of 8 books. And I made sort of a rule for myself that you had to start with one, pick your destination, and you had to end with pick your conclusion. But these in the middle could be in any order. So, so here we go. So these are the ones I read in June, and I'll talk about those on a different thing. And then I got started in July. I got started on, I was going to do 3 trips, and the second one in July and the third one in August. Well, in July, I only got halfway through a road trip. So I read those 4 books, and then in August, I read 1 more book. So I still need to finish the second trip. It'd be nice if I could finish the third too. But anyway, so at the end of October, I still had a few books to do. So, so I did read, Blossom Culp again. So for the pick your road trip vehicle, I did a book published in the decade of a 1980 Mustang. So this was a 1986 book, The Blossom Culp and the Sleep of Death. So that counted for that. And then to finish out this trip, I just need 1 more, and that is 13 at Dinner, an Hercule Poirot mystery by Agatha Christie. I have read this, and this will be for my road trip conclusion to reread a book. It's, I think, let me see what the, Pick your road trip conclusion, a book that fits the prompt. That was a blast. Let's do it again. A reread. So yeah. So we've got Agatha Christie. This is 13 at dinner. There we go. And this is one of those old Dell editions. So let's see. When did I read this? Oh gosh, the pages are coming out. These were really cheap little editions. So reprinted. So this was the new Dell edition, first printing September 1982. So 1982 is the earliest I could have read this. So yeah, 80s. That makes sense. That tracks. I don't remember what happened, so it'll be a fun ride again. I'm going to turn off my mic because I need to cough. Yeah, this is going too long, and my voice is going, but so I'll try to get through. I've only got 3 more to go. 3 more readathons to go. So yeah, I'll worry about a third trip if and when I finish the second trip. So now is the Australian readathon. And I linked in the description box, I linked to one of the videos for the announcement of that, and I joined the Discord and got all the fun little download, printables and everything. And so this is the bingo board. There. And so you can see there are 9 spaces. The group read actually covers all but one of them. And the group read, it's The Boy from the Mish, and it's by Gary Lonesborough. The American title in the US is Ready When You Are. And so I've just barely started it, so I missed the buddy read. But yeah, that's so that I think covers everything except indie or self-published. So for indie or self-published, and yeah, I'm going into that one kind of cold. I don't really know what it's about. It's about a boy from the Mish, and I don't know what that means. And that's probably why they gave it a different title in the US. For set in Australia, let's see. So for indie or self-published, I went with do I have it up? Well, anyway, it's called Manly Books, and it's by Skyring. It's and that is my friend Pete. I know him from Book Crossing, and we've met at various book crossing events all over the world. And he's a great guy, so I really want to read his book. It's called Manly Books, and apparently Manly is a place name. But yeah, that should be fun. But he did self-publish that, and I think it also counts as a NaNoWriMo novel for another challenge that I'm doing. And then I did already read what was it? The From Below. And that's by Darcy Coates. And I didn't even realize at the time, until I started reading it, and it was like, wait, is Darcy Coates Australian? And as far as I can tell, she is. But I need to see which ones of these it covers. And I think there's another one. Oh, The Killing Code is by an Australian author. And this is one of the things is to read a host favorite. So that's another one that also is not covered by the group read. But The Killing Code is, I think, one of Mel's favorites that she announced. So, and I thought this one sounded really intriguing. So, my stack is getting a little precarious here. Let's do this. I'm going to move these over here and rearrange these. All right, I feel safer now. So I think I can get all of those covered with like these 3 or 4 books. So yeah. All right. Now we move on to Nonfiction November. And so this is one, it's just mainly read nonfiction books. And I have read several already this year. This November. Trying to think which ones. Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. That was really good. I read that for LHR Society. That was really good. I highly recommend that. And then, but let's see, have I read any that cover? I don't think I've read any that cover the actual prompts yet. So one of the prompts is, and it's just words, and you're supposed to read something that has to do with that word. So one of them, and you can combine them if you like, but one of them is capital. And I don't know, I couldn't really come up with anything that I already had, so I borrowed from the library this book about Romania, because one of the chapters in the end is like a guided tour of the capital of Romania. So I figure that counts. I got it though, and it's kind of a textbook format. It's I don't know if you can kind of see that, but it and it's pretty thick. I honestly don't think I will be able to finish it in time, but I'll come up with something. I'm not sure what, but that's capital. 2 of the words are fraud and web. And so for that, and I don't have a hard copy of it, it's The Internet Con by Cory Doctorow. And I just got a copy of it on Libro.fm. And I have not started it yet, but I figure that would cover web and fraud, both. So there's that. And then the 4th word was display. And I was thinking, let's just pick something off of a display at the library and check that out. And I just didn't really see anything that grabbed me. But I was thinking, this is kind of a coffee table book. It's got the shiny cover. This is The Island Kitchen, and it's all about It's recipes from Mauritius and the Indian Ocean. So all of these island nations and that have such wonderful sounding food. Well, okay, maybe I don't want to eat Creole octopus salad, but lobster and vanilla cream sauce, that sounds pretty good. Um, Maldivian tuna curry. But it's got all sorts of great pictures. So this actually ought to be a pretty quick read. I mean, there is a lot of text explaining history and ingredients and also the author's just kind of personal feelings about the food. So I'm really looking forward to that. And oh, I didn't tick that over to nonfiction November. Yeah. So this is not necessarily Australian. So for, if I decide that I want to do 4 separate books, I do have, I can't reach it. It's called The Art of the Con, and it is about art forgery. So I could do that for fraud. And then the internet con for web. All right. So now, almost there. Historathon 4.0. And yeah, I've had a fun little history with this. It takes me a while to get through. I don't know, for some reason, whenever I'm told, oh, read a bunch of historical fiction, I end up reading actual history. So, but this one, the 3 hosts, and I've got them listed below. There's Gloria, Amanda, and Lindsay. And there's a group read. The group read is Crow Mary. And I have started reading that. I got it on Libby from the library. And I am enjoying that. It's set in like Montana, and I think part of it is set in Canada. The author is Canadian, and it is based on a true story. So they do a different format every time, and this time it's pick a prompt. And so you have each of the hosts has provided 3 prompts, and you pick one prompt from each host. So one of Gloria's prompts is based on a true story. So Crow Mary works for that. I also have started Wolf Hall, but there's no way I'm going to get that finished in November or anytime soon. I make a little progress, and then somebody else needs to borrow it, and yeah, because it's on Libby too, and I can't get through a lot of that at one time. I don't know. It's, to be honest, not really appealing to me that much. Wolf Hall, by Hilary Mantel. But Crow Mary, I am enjoying. So we'll see how that goes. And so for Amanda, those 3 prompts, I have already read The Alice Network, which counts for book with 3 words in the title. And that is by Alice Quinn? No, not Alice Quinn. Susan Quinn. Kate Quinn. Or The Alice Network. And that's another book that I remember buying a hard copy of that earlier this year. I did not imagine that. I even looked up the receipt. It's like, yes, I did buy this. I cannot find it. I don't know. Maybe I left it at my dad's, maybe this summer. I don't know. But it is the first book in this like early 20th, mid 20th century. Because this one is more about World War I, even though, and it's a dual timeline thing. There's a World War I timeline, and then there is I guess a Cold War timeline. It's set in the late 40s, after World War II, but it has to do somewhat with World War II. So it's an interesting mix of of topics. But there's the Alice Network was a spy network in World War I in France, and so that's what it mostly deals with. I did like it. I have already read The Huntress, which was the second book, and I felt like her writing was more polished in The Huntress. In this, in the Alice Network, I also felt like she was kind of trying to, and I won't say it's bad autism rep, but she was trying to introduce an autistic character, or at least a neurodivergent character, who's like always doing math, and it just it didn't really fit smoothly into the plot, even though I knew I understood what she was trying to do, and I think, like I said, it wasn't bad autism rep. It just felt a little gimmicky, and unrealistic. It felt forced, I guess. But it was fine, and really an interesting look at World War I, because I don't know, it seems like so much of literature and education focuses on World War II, and World War I is just kind of a footnote, and they talk about it a little bit, and it's like, but now we'll go to World War II, and I don't know. And then Lindsay's, one of her prompts was by a favorite author. And so we are back to Blossom. Like I said, this is historical fiction. It's set mostly in Illinois in the early 20th century, but it does actually at one point have a time, or it goes back 50 years before that. So you've got that. And then there are others. I also read A Gentleman in Moscow, which counts for recommended by a favorite person or source. And that might be a little bit of a stretch. The author was recommended to me by a book club friend. So, and we read it for book club, for book snobs. A Gentleman in Moscow. Moscow. I can't, because I've been the one in Idaho, and so I always get mixed up, and I never can remember which one is Moscow and which one is Moscow. I think it's Moscow, Idaho, and Moscow, Moskva. Anyway, and that I was really surprised, because I had been avoiding it because it just sounded really dang boring. I was like, what? That a guy stuck in a hotel instead of being killed, why? I don't understand. But it was actually a fascinating read. It was funny and entertaining and heartwarming, and and I can't really tell you what it's about. It's very character driven. So if you're looking for historical fiction that is extremely character driven, A Gentleman in Moscow is definitely one to try. And Queen Victoria's Book of Spells, looks like I'll probably work that in for book with the word book in the title, because those are all set in the Victorian era. And and I've got other things lined up for the other prompts, but I only need to read 3, so I've got 2 of them already, and I just need to finish Crow Mary, and I'll be set. So, all right. This has gone on far too long. Thank you for bearing with me and listening to me ramble about books, because I love rambling about books. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. Even if you're watching this after the fact, let me know what you're reading. The tail end of November here, and as the year finishes out in December, and and I know it's really tempting because they've posted some of the prompts for 2024 challenges and everything. And I'm like, oh. And there are a few readathons in December that I want to do, but that's a topic for another day. Thank you so much. Take care. Hope everyone who is celebrating Thanksgiving this weekend. I mean, it's all weekend. There's first the feasting, and then the shopping. I have done a little bit of shopping, but yeah, it seems like silly to just insist that it's just Thursday, because for one thing, if you do the feasting on Thursday instead of, say, Saturday or Sunday when maybe more people are available, then you've got leftovers, and so you've got to do leftovers. They're yummy leftovers. I'm already out of stuffing, so I got to make more stuffing. But I hope everyone who celebrates U.S. Thanksgiving is having a great holiday weekend. And thank you for being here to listen to me ramble about books. Happy Thanksgiving. See you around.